All right. Should be live now. What's going on, guys? Here we got a better slate. Should be better slate than yesterday's three-game slate. We got 9 games to talk about. 45 minutes to lock. We'll keep the same schedule as always. We'll go over what we know so far. We can look at Vegas numbers, talk about players, their prices, kind of who I'm targeting, and then give you guys a cash core at the end, and then can answer any questions you guys have as well. So let's start with what we know so far. McDermott out, not big news. Jerome Robinson questionable, somewhat big news. Mitchell Robinson is questionable. That is pretty big. If he misses, I would like Bobby Portis a good amount at his price. Let's see. LeBron James playing, so not as high on Anthony Davis. I still do like AD, but not as much. Curry questionable. He actually just got ruled out, so that game I have very little confidence it stays close. Aldridge is a surprise here. He was, I think, doubtful. Then now he's probable. Looks like he's going to be able to give it a go. So now I'm not as high on DeRozan. It definitely does hurt those other guards too, with like Mills, Forbes, and Derek White. Let's see. Michael Mulder signed a multi-year contract. I actually think he's a viable punt play today with no Steph Curry. DeAndre Ayton went through shoot around, so it looks like he's probably on track to play as well. I'm not as high on Booker. I still think Booker is in play, but not as high. And then obviously would be off Baines if Ayton is able to play. Let's see. Lou Williams rolled out. Honestly, not huge news. I mean, probably Pat Beverly and Reggie Jackson probably get a couple more minutes, but still, it's just there's still a lot of mouths to feed there for the Clippers. And again, I have very little confidence that game stays close. Jerome Robinson game time decision. Oladipo will play. Steph Curry out again. That makes some of those value guys more viable. Dwight Howard out. So, at the beginning of the year would be a lot bigger news. Now it's not huge news just because he was playing very few minutes recently. He was playing about 10 minutes a game. The good thing is with McGee, right? I made a tweet. I kind of like McGee as a value play. Is Brooklyn runs big with Allen and Jordan. Always one of those guys is on the court. I don't think they want to play like Anthony Davis on them too much, or like Markieff Morris. So I think we probably get at least 20 minutes from Joel McGee. I do like him a good amount as a value play. Kemba, 30 to 32 minutes. I don't have a lot of interest in that game. Let's see. I think that's what we know. Oh, Eric Gordon will play. Arcidiacono out. Ben McLemore will play as well. So let's take a look at these Vegas numbers. And also big news too is we're still waiting on Luka Doncic, right? He is questionable. There was, if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, it's important. I retweeted a couple of things. He was warming up. It didn't really look like himself, beat reporter said. So it looks like that wrist might still be bothering him. If Luka misses, you guys know what to do, right? Porzingis, you play him, and then you get some of those value guys. Like DeLon Wright, with no Seth Curry too. I think he'll probably have to play big minutes. I think JJ Barea would become more viable. All right, let's take a look at some numbers here. Celtics, Pacers, 214 over under. The Celtics are 3.5-point favorites. Knicks, Wizards, 230 over under. The Wizards are 5-point favorites. Cavs, Bulls, 217.5. The Bulls are 4-point favorites. Mavs, Spurs, 228 over under. The Mavs are 4-point favorites. Rockets, Timberwolves, a 248.5 over under. The Rockets are 12.5-point favorites. So obviously that game stands out from a Vegas total. There is some blowout risk, but man, if Minnesota can keep it close, you could see a huge scoring game there. Magic, Grizzlies, 219.5 over under. The Grizzlies are 2.5-point favorites. Suns, T-Wolves, 234 over under. Another game I have mentioned, 4.5-point favorites. The Blazers are. Nets, Lakers, 224.5. Lakers are 12.5-point favorites. Obviously some blowout risk there. Again, some blowout risk here with the Clippers and Warriors, 224 over under. 12.5-point spread. Clippers are favored. And that's what we got so far. So, let me refresh Fantasy Labs one more time, then we can get to the game-by-game breakdown. Aldridge will play. Wizards will start Napier. Robinson will start. Okay, Napier, Beal, Robinson, Rui, and Thomas Bryant in the starting lineup. All right, so let's start with the first two games. And I think actually, just before I get into it, an interesting strategy here is if we don't get the Luka news, is to fade the first two games, right? So fade Boston, Indiana. That's a game I have very little interest in. The New York, Washington game is a game I do have some interest in, but again, an interesting argument would be to just fade the first two games to wait for the Luka news. And if Luka gets ruled out, again, Porzingis is going to look very, very appealing. On the Boston side, honestly, this game will be pretty quick. I have very little interest in this team. Even with no Jaylen Brown out, or with Jaylen Brown out, like Tatum seems a little bit too pricey. Kemba, sure, he's going to get 30 to 32 minutes, but I don't want to pay that price for him against the Pacers. Hayward and Smart just seem priced right. I'm not going to get to Tice at that price. So honestly, Boston is a pretty easy fade for me on this 9-game slate. On the Pacers side, kind of the same thing now with Oladipo playing. I'm not going to get to any of the value. I'm not going to take a shot on either Holiday or McConnell. Oladipo himself has been bad. I don't want to go there. Miles Turner, I'll pass. I'm not going to get to TJ Warren. The only guy I would have interest in this game, honestly, is Sabonis, just because of his consistency. He's going to play 35 to 40 minutes. He's basically a lock for a double-double. So I have some interest in Sabonis. Again, more of a contrarian option, though. That's really it. This game is pretty much a pretty easy fade for me. Let's talk about the Knicks and the Wizards. So this game I do have some more interest in. Big news right now is the status of Mitchell Robinson. He is currently listed as questionable. If he can't go, it would make Bobby Portis a pretty solid value play here at 4.2K. I believe that last game against the Jazz was the one Mitchell Robinson missed. Bobby Portis played 30 minutes, had 29 fantasy points. Obviously, this is a good up-tempo matchup too. So, if Mitchell Robinson gets ruled out, I would like Bobby Portis a good amount as a value play. The other value here, I'm not going to get to Barrett or any of the really cheap guys. The two guys at the top I do have interest in, with both Randall and Alfred Payton. Now, the concern is the minutes have been down on both of them recently, but the salaries have come down a bit, and it's a really, really good matchup here against the Wizards. So I do like both Alfred Payton and Julius Randle today. If you're going more of a mid-tier build, which I think you can, there's a lot of solid mid-tier plays, right? Like these two. You got some of the Cavs. You have a Kobe White. You have like Covington. There's a lot of solid mid-tier plays. I think you can build that kind of lineup construction. So if I was going more of a balanced lineup, I think getting one of these Knicks guys or even both in the lineup is not a bad idea. I do like both those guys a decent amount here. And again, Mitchell Robinson, if he plays, he's always viable for GPPs. Again, if he misses, it's Bobby Portis is the one I want for value. On the Wizards side, Brad Beal at the top at 10.2 just makes it tricky for me to prioritize him when you have the two Houston guards in probably one of the best possible matchups. You have, possibly Porzingis without Luka. You have some other stars. I think they're just in better spots. So Beal, more of a secondary spend up for me. I'm not going to get to him for single entry. Napier with Jerome Robinson. I believe Jerome Robinson missed that last game. What was that, Atlanta? He played 36 minutes. Was that the last game? Yeah, he did miss the last game. Napier played 40 minutes. I would not expect 40 minutes again from Napier. He's such a frustrating player to roster for DFS. Very up and down, so I'll probably pass there. I don't think I get to Bertans or Rui. They seem priced about right. Jerome Robinson himself at 4.1. That's kind of pushing it. I'll probably pass there. I'm not going to get to Troy Brown. The only other guy I've finished is Thomas Bryant at 3.9. We'd probably get around 20, maybe 25 on the high end for minutes-wise. Now, the last game against Miami, he was in severe foul trouble, right? He fouled out in 16 minutes. But the game before, he played 24 minutes against the Hawks. So I do like Thomas Bryant. It's a close call right now with him and JaVale McGee for me. Really close. I think, if you wanted to, you could play both those cheap centers. But yeah, I think 20, maybe 25 at the most for Thomas Bryant. I think he's a pretty solid cheap option. And that about wraps up for Washington. So let's see if we got any more news here, and then we can move on to Minnesota and Houston. Let's see. Troy Brown Jr., yeah, no interest in Troy Brown Jr. With Jerome Robinson playing. So let's talk about Minnesota. D'Angelo Russell at the top at 8.5, I think makes for a good tournament play today. He's been shooting the ball terribly, right? 6 of 14, 2 of 14, 6 of 18. His fantasy points have been down. He's been struggling a bit, but this is the type of spot we could see a massive game from D'Angelo Russell. So if you're targeting either Harden or Westbrook, I don't think it's the worst idea to run it back with D'Angelo Russell because, just for like a GPP build, right? That lineup itself, just playing D-Lo with one of the Houston guards, that has enormous upside if this game stays close. I know he hasn't been good. The ownership's going to be low, which I kind of like. So D'Angelo Russell is a guy I like buying low on. Sure, the salary hasn't really moved a whole lot. But again, this spot, a 248.5 over-under, I know he hasn't been great. But this is a game we could see a big upside game from him. And I think we're going to get him at low ownership. So for tournaments, I do like D'Angelo Russell a good amount. Naz Reid, my concern with him is the small ball approach, right? Is Minnesota just going to stick him out there for 25 minutes, or are they going to run more James Johnson? I think, either way. Now, if they stick to Naz Reid, you could see him having upside here, but more of a contrarian option just because of the price. James Johnson, I do like at 4.9. Again, I think this is a game maybe he gets extended a little bit more. He's been pretty productive when he gets time, right? So 38, 27, 28, 29. He's filling up the stat sheet. I think he's a pretty solid cheap play if you want, cheap exposure to this game. I'm not going to get to anyone below that, though, like a Kojier, McLaughlin, I'll pass. Hernan Gomez at 5.2, I think is okay. He's been a little bit up and down, but, we know the upside's there. I think he's fine for the mid-range. Not super, super excited about that. Beasley, I do have some mention in him. The concern is, again, he is scoring dependent, but matchup's really good. If you don't want to get all the way up to D'Angelo Russell, and you want to save some money and you want Minnesota exposure, I think getting to Beasley or James Johnson is not a bad idea at all. Like I said, if this game stays close, you're going to want exposure to it. So my concern is, the game can blow out. I'm willing to take that risk tonight. So that's kind of where I'm going. I'm going with pretty high exposure in this game. Again, I know the risk. I know there's potential for a blowout, but that's the way that I am personally going tonight. So that does it for Minnesota. Let's talk about Houston. The two guards at the top, I like a good amount here. It's hard not to like them in almost a 250 over under. Minnesota plays absolutely no defense. Harden at the top at 11.3, I think makes for an interesting contrarian play compared to Westbrook. Now, I think Westbrook is going to be more popular because the difference between them is starting to widen, right? Before it was, maybe only a $500 discount. Now it's over $1,000 between Westbrook and Harden. So, sure, Westbrook is probably the safer option. He's going to eat up more ownership. But that's also going to, that's going to lower the ownership for Harden, being that it makes it a little bit more difficult to get to him. No, I know. He hasn't been great recently, but this is James Harden. This is a matchup against Minnesota. We could see 70-plus from him in this one. So, and he's not been shooting the ball well either, right? If he gets his shot starting to fall, again, we could see a massive game from him. 8 of 22, 4 of 17, 8 of 22, 6 of 19. So I do like James Harden. I do like Westbrook. I think Westbrook probably the safer option for the price, but both those guys I have a good amount of interest in. I also have some interest in Robert Covington at 6.2. Revenge game spot. The price is ticking up, but he's playing huge minutes. Again, that Orlando game was a blowout. The Clippers game was he in foul trouble, or was that a blowout too? I forget. But normally in a close game, he's going to be about 35 or so minutes. He's going to run the 4, going to run the 5. His rebounds are up. Again, great matchup here too. So I do like Robert Covington there in the mid-range at that price. I'm not going to get to the other value though with like House and Tucker, with Eric Gordon coming back and Ben McLemore. Jeff Green was a guy I would have some interest in if Eric Gordon was out. He'd been getting some more minutes, but with Eric Gordon now back in, I don't know what the minutes rotation is going to be like, so I'm a little bit worried about Jeff Green's minutes because of Eric Gordon, so I'll probably pass for now there. So, again, the top 3 guys for Houston I do like with Harden, Westbrook, and Covington. Let's see. Let's go back to Fantasy Labs. We've got any more info. Derek White will start for DeJounte Murray. Kind of expected that. All right, let's go to Cleveland and Chicago now. So on the Cleveland side, this is a team I like a lot. And, just going off what I've heard recently, I don't think they're going to be that high owned. So I love Drummond here at 8.7. No Tristan Thompson. Did only play 33 minutes, so was in foul trouble that last game against the Spurs. I think we probably get 35 or so minutes from him in a great spot against Chicago. I love Drummond. He is definitely my favorite spend-up center of the day. Kevin Love at 8.1, I have some interest in, but I would just prefer getting to Drummond. Now Drummond, I think, is going to eat up more ownership compared to Love. So if you want to get off the, I guess, higher owned player on the Cavs, you could look to Kevin Love. Again, my priority there would be Drummond. Sexton, I think, is still viable because of the huge minutes, right? He's a guy that can put up 40, even 50 plus. He's playing about 40 minutes a game. Again, they're running an 8-man, basically 7-man rotation. Well, 6-man rotation, I should say, with Nance coming out the bench, and then like McKinney will play about 20 minutes, and then they can dust off like Zizic or Dean Wade for like 10 or so minutes. That's basically how the rotation is going to go. So, yeah, all these guys are going to play huge minutes. I think Sexton's definitely in play. I like Larry Nance coming off the bench. We probably get 35 or so minutes from him. And he's a guy that fills up the stat sheet. I think he's a pretty solid mid-tier play. CD is fine at 5.4. The price is ticking up. Again, he should play huge minutes. And I like Dellavedova 4K. He's one of my favorite value plays. I know he's not a super high usage guy, but 45 minutes in that last game. Now, sure, it went to overtime, so I guess only 40, but 40 minutes in regulation, right? That is really good to see for a guy that's 4K. So, sure, he's not going to shoot the ball a ton, but he's a guy that can get you probably double-digit assists, feeding Drummond, feeding Love. I do like Dellavedova a good amount as a value option there. McKinney, more of a dart throw, right? He's not going to play big minutes, but around 20 or so, maybe a little bit more. I think, again, at almost mid-price, you can throw a dart there. Not going to feel confident about it, though. And then they'll probably, again, dust off either Wade or Zizic for a few minutes, but nothing big. So, all in all, I like Cleveland a lot. I think my two favorite plays would be Drummond and Dellavedova. But again, Love, Sexton, Nance, CD Osman. I think all those guys are certainly viable. And again, they're basically going to run a 6-man rotation with McKinney playing about 20 minutes as a 7th man. I like Cleveland a lot here. Let's talk about Chicago. So Chicago's a team that they're a little bit more tricky. I've heard some people talk about Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. at their respective prices. Sure, the minutes are going up. I don't think I get there, though. I'm worried because it's Jim Boylen, 1. 2, they have a lot of guys that can use, right? So I don't think I get to Wendell Carter Jr. or Markkanen. I know they're both starting, but I'll probably pass there. Santa Rancy coming out the bench, no interest. Shaq Harrison's a guy that I'm a little bit torn on. I don't think I'm going to get there because I think he's going to be very high owned. And, again, it's Jim Boylen. You never really know what he's going to do with the Mets. And they have, other guys that can use, right? They have Otto Porter Jr. His direct backup is obviously the better player, but he's been dealing with injuries. That just worries me. They have a lot of guys who can use. So I think Shaq's fine. I think he's going to be pretty popular because small forward is pretty ugly today. But I think I will pass here if, again, I think he is going to be pretty high owned. Now, for cash games, sure, you can go there. But again, I think he is going to be pretty high owned. So I'll probably look elsewhere. Denzel, I'll pass. I'm not going to get to Thad Young. Kobe White's probably my favorite play here at 6.8. He's going to start. We probably get at least 35 minutes from him. Great matchup. Sure, the price is coming up, but he is doing it all offensively right now. So I still have some interest in Kobe White here at 6.8 with no Levine, obviously. And I think that really does it for Chicago. So let's talk about Dallas and San Antonio. Have we got any Luka news? Probably not. Let's see. Luka expected to play. Okay. So I guess that was a little bit surprising to me. Let's see. Have we got Mitchell Robinson news yet? I haven't seen that yet. I see the Knicks have starting lineup. Let's see. Okay, expected to play. All right. So with Luka expected to play at 11.1, it's a good matchup. I have some interest, but I think I prefer one of the Houston guards just because I like the upside a little bit more. Now, sure, again, I know the risk with the potential for a blowout in Minnesota-Houston. That's a risk I'm willing to take because the upside is enormous if the game stays close. So yeah, Luka is more of a secondary spend up for me right now. Again, dealing with the wrist injury too does worry me a little bit. Porzingis, not as high on him now with Luka playing. You can still go there. Like, he still has had upside games even with Luka Doncic playing. But I think, again, he's more of a secondary play as well now. I don't think I get to any of the value with both those guys playing. The value guys are guys I look to with one or even both of them out. So pretty simple there for Dallas. Again, Luka and Porzingis are both in play spend up wise, but I think they're a tier behind the Houston guards for me right now. As far as the Spurs go, DeRozan was the guy I was really high on early, when I made my video last night. But with Aldridge now playing, not as high on him. Now, sure, he can still have an upside game with Aldridge playing, but his usage is going to go down. Aldridge himself at 6.5, been dealing with a shoulder injury. He's missed the last 5 to 7 games or so. Sure, the price tag is somewhat appealing here at 6.5, but maybe they limit his minutes. I don't know. So I'm a little bit torn here just because it's Popovich. He's dealing with an injury. I don't know. Like if I knew Aldridge was going to play 35 minutes, I would have more interest. But I think there's a chance they could limit his minutes. And then no DeJounte Murray, right? So that's pretty big news. He was playing 25 to 30 minutes a game. Those minutes have to go somewhere. Now be careful because San Antonio, they just have a lot of guys who can use. Again, it's really hard to trust Popovich. So you would think, obviously Derek White starting, Bryn Forbes, Patty Mills, you'd think those would be the direct beneficiaries. But, I mean, again, they can dust off Marco Bellinelli for some minutes, right? They can use, I guess Lonnie Walker's not playing, but they still have other guys they can use. So they can play Rudy Gay a little bit more. So Derek White at 4.6 starting, I think does make for a pretty solid value option. Close call right now for me with him and Dellavedova. I would give the edge to Dellavedova just because I think he plays more minutes. So yeah, like I said, I still have interest in Derek White with no DeJounte Murray. Him, Forbes, Mills should play more minutes. So I think getting to one of those cheap guards is not a bad idea. Mills at almost min price does look pretty appealing. I think we probably get at least 20. Maybe 25 to 30 from him. So those cheap Spurs guards I do have some interest in. But again, the risk is it's Popovich, and he could always do something fluky. You just never really know. I don't think I get to Gray or Lyles on this one with Aldridge coming back. So that about wraps up for San Antonio. Let's see. We got about 20 minutes to lock. Let's see if we got any more news. Dorian Finney-Smith expected to play too. Okay. Let's talk about Orlando, Memphis. So on the Orlando side, it's Vucevic and Gordon at the top that I do have some interest in. I think they go a bit overlooked on the slate. So for low-owned options in a good matchup, I think both those guys are pretty solid options. Now, am I going to get there in my lineup? Probably not. Again, I kind of told you the way I'm going. I'm loading up that Minnesota-Houston game and hoping it stays close. Just again, I think that the upside is enormous in that one. But, guys like Gordon, guys like Vucevic, these are guys that get overlooked in a really good matchup. So I think both those guys are pretty solid options. Ross at that price is just okay. I'm not going to get to Fultz. Augustine and Michael Carter-Williams, I do have some interest in. We probably get about 25 or so minutes from them with no Evan Fournier. I would probably prefer Augustine to MCW, but I think those are value guys that are in play, and I think go a little bit overlooked on this one. On the Memphis side, this will be pretty quick. Don't have a lot of interest here. And JV, Morant, Dylan Brooks, they just seem priced about right. The value, too. Like, if you want to take a shot in one of those guards, like Tyus Jones or Melton or Josh Jackson, sure. Probably one of those guys will have a decent game, but nothing I can really recommend with confidence there from Memphis. Let's talk about Phoenix and Portland. So this is a game that I do like, but the price tags are, make it a little bit more difficult to get to these guys. So, if I wasn't going to load up in Minnesota, Houston, I think this is the game that, if I wasn't a game stack a game, it probably would be this one. So yeah, if I'm going to make, I'll probably play the late slate here, hoping it's a 3-game slate. But yeah, I would get to a lot of Phoenix and Portland. This is a game that I do like. Now, DeAndre Ayton coming back, or most likely coming back, does hurt some things, right? Booker was a guy I was really high on, but if Ayton plays, you got to, Booker isn't as good of a play. I still think he is viable, but not as good of a play. DeAndre Ayton himself, I think if he plays, I think we probably get about 35 or so minutes from him. Good matchup against Portland, so I would have some interest there. If Ayton misses, I would like Aaron Baines a good amount, who would probably get about 35 minutes from him. Rubio at that price, I would just prefer getting to Ayton and Booker, if I was going to spend up on one of the Phoenix guys. Bridges and Sarge, I'll pass even if Ayton misses. And then that really does it for Phoenix. Let's talk about Portland. Lillard at 9.1, I think makes her an interesting contrarian play here. The price is dropping. He hasn't been good recently, but kind of like D'Angelo Russell, right? Now you're getting him at a little bit cheaper of a price. And this is Damian Lillard. He was putting up 70 to 80 fancy points a night on a consistent basis, like, what, a month ago? So, and again, you're getting him at 9.1K in a really good spot. I have some interest in Lillard, for sure. Whiteside I like as well at 9K. Again, it just makes it a little bit tricky to load up on this game because everyone is pretty expensive. But we probably get about 35 minutes from Whiteside. We know Phoenix runs big. If Ayton plays, that's a boost to Whiteside. And you could play both those centers together. That's something I would look into doing for the late slate, for me at least personally. Because, again, both centers not very good defensively, but both are, can put up fancy points in a short amount of time. So I do have interest in both centers there. Again, assuming Ayton plays. CJ at 7.9, I'm not going to get to at that price with Lillard playing. Melo and Ariza, I think there's just better options in the slate than to go to either of them. So that really does it for Portland. Let's talk about the Clippers now. Team I have very little interest in because I have no confidence this game stays close. Kawhi and Paul George, if I'm going to play one, it's going to be Paul George for his price. Montrez, the minutes are a little bit up and down. Again, I'm just very concerned about the game blowing out. Lou Williams missing does, probably give more minutes to Reggie Jackson and Pat Beverly. I think both those guys are okay options, but again, they could just use someone else, right? They could use Shaman a bit more. They could, play Rodney McGruder some minutes. So Zubac at 4.3, don't think we have to do that. I think my favorite play would be Paul George if I was going to play someone here in the Clippers. I think Pat Beverly and Reggie Jackson are viable cheap options. But still, they still have a lot of mouths to feed with Kawhi, Paul George, Montrez, even Zubac, Marcus Morris is going to shoot when he's out there. So that's kind of the concern with the Clippers. On a Golden State, so no Steph Curry. Again, I'm very, very concerned about the blowout. I'm not going to get to Wiggins at that price. Marquise Chris is a guy I do like, but I mean, if the game blows out, I think he gets off the floor, right? So that is concerned there. I think they probably get the Mets like Dragan Bender. So more of a secondary play. If I was confident this game would stay close, I would like Marquise Chris, but I just have very little confidence it stays close. Damian Lee, I'll pass. I would prefer getting to the value. Again, I'm not going to get to Pascal either. Now, guys like Mulder and Jordan Poole, I have some interest in. Probably would prefer Mulder because he's been playing more minutes. He's been starting to. I think he's an okay value option. No Steph. Toscano, Anderson, and Bender, right? These are guys that probably get extended if the game blows out. I think there's a pretty good chance it does. So I think you can take a shot on either one of those guys. Probably Toscano and Anderson is the safer option because he's been playing more minutes. But both those guys are in play here. Again, I think if the game blows out, they probably get extended a bit more. All right, last game here. We got about 15 minutes to lock. Brooklyn, Lakers. On the Brooklyn side, LeVert and Dinwiddie I do have some interest in, but I don't know. It's tricky. Lakers, really tough matchup. There's a chance this game can blow out too, right? I think it's like a 12.5-point spread. So I do like both those guards, but the more contrarian for me, if I was going more of a mid-tier build, I think those guys would become more viable. Again, the concern is that the game does not stay close. But both those guys have pretty big upside there at their respective prices. DeAndre Jordan started the last game, played 29 minutes. It's always hard to predict what the center rotation is going to be like with him and Jarrett Allen. They kind of go with the hot hand. It is a new coach, but still, I don't know if I can get to either of them. Maybe for the late slate, I would consider DeAndre Jordan. Value, don't think we have to go there. Like Wilson Chandler started last game, played 22 minutes. Sure, if you're happy with like 10 to 15 fancy points, sure. But really, not a whole lot I'm super excited about for value there. On the Lakers side, so LeBron James playing definitely hurts Anthony Davis. LeBron himself, I'm not going to get to at that price. AD is the guy I would get to if I was going to get to when he spent up Lakers just for his price, right? 9.8K. Great matchup here. So, I do like the upside for Anthony Davis a good amount. The concern is, Brooklyn doesn't keep it close. That is a big concern here. But if they do, we could see a big game from AD. So I do like him as a spend up. the value with LeBron playing, I'm not going to get to Kuzma or anyone else. The only other guy I have interested in is JaVale McGee at 3.6. I do like him a decent amount. Now, we have no Dwight Howard, so earlier in the season it would be pretty big. Like JaVale McGee would probably play 25 to 30 minutes, but lately they've been running Kuzma a bit. They can run Markieff Morris at the center, so it's no guarantee McGee's going to play huge minutes. And also Dwight Howard's minutes have been way down. 13, 10, 7 the last game. Now, the good thing is, again, Brooklyn runs big. With Allen or Jordan, always one of those guys is out on the floor. So can they really run Markieff Morris out there at the 5 against either a center for a long period of time? Probably not. Sure, they can run Anthony Davis out there, but I think JaVale McGee's minutes go up. I think we probably get 20 or so, maybe 25. He's a pretty productive guy when he gets the time. So JaVale McGee, again, him and like Thomas Bryant are very, very similar to me on the slate. Both, I think, get about 20, maybe 25 minutes. Both are pretty productive when they get the time. So I do like both those guys for value for center. And that basically wraps it up. Let's see if we got any more news, and then we can give you guys my cash game core and then get to questions at the end. All right, so let's give you guys... Do we still not have Mitchell Robinson news? Am I missing something? Because that is pretty big. And that game locks in, 10 minutes, right? What is it, 1L? Man, this is kind of frustrating because, yeah, Bobby Portis would become a very viable play if Mitchell Robinson misses, but we're not getting any news. All right, that kind of sucks. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get that news before lock, which is really, really disappointing. But, all right, let's get to... I'll give you guys my core right now. So, let's see. What do I want to give you guys? Center, we'll go Drummond. I really like him as a spend-up at that price. I think he's too cheap. I think getting to one of those other value centers, right? Whether it be JaVale McGee or Thomas Bryant, I would probably try to get to one of those two guys. Oh, sure, you can play them both if you want to. I'm going to give the edge to McGee. Both are, again, pretty similar plays to me. So we'll go McGee there. And then, let's see, what else do we want to give? I think Dellavedova as the value right now. Again, if you want to get to Derek White, that's a pretty close call for me as far as value point guards go with Dellavedova versus Derek White. I think getting one of those guys, I'm going to give that to Dellavedova because I think he plays more minutes. And then lastly, I think you want to get one of those Houston guards in there, whether it be Harden, whether it be Westbrook. Now, sure, you can take a stance for GPPs and hope the game blows out. I think there's a decent chance it can, right? 12.5-point spread. But I just love the upside and almost a 250 over under. So either Harden or Westbrook, whoever you prefer. I'm going to play Harden because I think he's going to be lower owned. Westbrook probably the safer option. So if you want to go Westbrook there, that's probably a good cash game core to start your lineups with for this slate. All right, let's get to some questions here. We have about 10 minutes till lock. Good info and content. Thank you, man. Howard is out, so I'll take McGee. Yeah. Again, Dwight Howard wasn't playing huge minutes, so that is a slight concern. But the good thing is Brooklyn runs big, so I think we probably get 20 to 25 from McGee. Him and Thomas Bryant are very, very similar, as are Matthew Dellavedova and Derek White to me. They're very, very similar plays. Right, if you don't want to get to McGee and you want to get to Thomas Bryant, that's fine. If you don't want to get to Dellavedova, you want to play Derek White, also fine with me. Can we play Kuzma and McGee together? I would not. With LeBron playing, I would only play McGee, personally. Mulder, Denzel, I'll give the edge to Mulder there for the price. Best tournament play with 4K left in the utility spot. It's probably going to be one of those centers for me, whether it be McGee or Thomas Bryant. 4K, right? Like Jeff Green is a guy I would have interest in, but Eric Gordon coming back does worry me with his minutes. Yeah, it's going to be one of those centers, or if you want to take a shot on one of the Clippers guards with Reggie Jackson or Pat Beverly, that's the way I would go about it. DK, this is what I got at the moment. Westbrook, Kobe White, Troy Brown, Randall, Drummond, Derek White, and Otto and Bryant. I like that. The concern with Troy Brown is that Jerome Robinson is playing. Now, how many minutes did he get that last time when Jerome Robinson played, right? So he's still got 28 minutes. I actually think he's an okay value option. I don't have an issue if you want to go there. He's below 4K, so that's fine. Favorite cheap power forwards, I'm thinking Laurie James Johnson. Yeah, I think I go James Johnson there. Again, I just think the matchup, this is a game where James Johnson could get a little bit more run. He's been very productive. So I think I like some James Johnson. Kobe White or Sexton, that's a really close call for me. Both are going to play huge minutes. It depends on your lineup construction, right? So how many Cavs do you have? If you have no Cavs, I think I would go Sexton. If you're playing one or two Cavs, I think you maybe go Kobe White. So all about what your roster construction kind of looks like. Do you think Okogie is an all right pick for forward with value? I just hate playing Josh Okogie. I really do. He's 4.1. I honestly, I personally wouldn't do it. I think there's better value options on the slate. Covington plus Green or Robinson, Peyton, GPP. I don't know if Mitchell Robinson's playing. I don't. Again, that is really, really frustrating for me right now because I currently have Bobby Portis in my lineup. And we're probably not going to get that news. So if Mitchell Robinson plays, it's going to hurt me with Bobby Portis in my lineup. Would you risk throwing in Portis right now? Yeah, so that's just what I talked about, right? I currently have Bobby Portis in. Now, sure, if Mitchell Robinson plays, Bobby Portis probably isn't going to kill me. He probably gets, a floor of 15 with upside of like 25. But if Mitchell Robinson's out, we could see 30 plus from Bobby Portis. So I'm pretty frustrated with this, with the Mitchell Robinson news at least. It's just like I thought we had this. I thought it was supposed to be 30 minutes before lock, right? I just popped in. Is that your core? Yeah. So core that's what I got right now. Again, if I think McGee, Thomas Bryant, you get one of those value guys. I like Drummond a lot, so he's kind of locked in there. I think you get one of the Houston guards, whether it be Westbrook or Harden, and then Dellavedova versus Derek White. That's also very, very close for me. I'm gonna go Dellavedova for the minutes, but pretty close to there if you want to get to Derek White instead of Dellavedova. Alfred Payton interest, yes, I do like Alfred Payton. Him and Randall are guys I think can have big upside here in this type of matchup. I really like Randall and Drummond tonight. I like Randall too. Sorry, switch lineup a little bit. 4,600 left for forward. Any suggestions? Okay, 4,600 for forward. Let's see. What's your risk tolerance, right? Because again, I'm playing Bobby Portis, hoping that Mitchell Robinson is out. You can take the shot there. I think Otto Porter Jr. is fine off the bench at 4.6. I would probably go with one of those two guys. I'm not super excited about a lot in that range, to be honest. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot I like there. I want to play Portis so bad. Yeah, this stupid Mitchell Robinson news is not cool, or not getting news. Could you play Dele and White together? Of course you can. I think both those guys are pretty good value plays today. Harrison, Rubio, Harden, Beasley, LeBron, Osman, James Johnson, Randall, and McGee. Fine with that, right? Shaq Harrison's a guy that I think is going to be pretty popular. I think he's a pretty good option too. My concern is I think he's going to be pretty high owned. Jerome Robinson, probably not for me. 5,600 utility. Let's see, 5,600. And utility. I would probably go with CD Osman or DeAndre Jordan would probably be the way that I go there. Thoughts on Booker for GPP? Yep, I like Booker. Small forward, 6,500. Thinking Covington. I would go Covington there. Would you play Bobby Portis? I mean, again, all about your risk tolerance. I don't know if Mitchell Robinson's going to play or not. which is, again, really frustrating. Any interest in LeVert or Aaron Gordon? Yeah, I would prefer Aaron Gordon there, but I think both are good contrarian options. I'll take a shot on Portis also. 5,800 for forward suggestions. Let's see. 5,800 forward. Yeah, again, there's really not a whole lot I like here. Probably would be Osman for me, just for the minutes. Osman or like Hernan Gomez, or get all the way down to James Johnson or Shaq Harrison. Thoughts on Shaq Harrison? I think Shaq Harrison's fine. I think he's going to be pretty popular. And again, my worry is it's Jim Boylan, and they do have other bodies they can use. I have Westbrook, White, LeVert, Portis, Drummond, Dellavedova, James Johnson, and McGee. I like that. What are your thoughts on Minnesota front court? Who are you looking at there? I think my priority, or if I was going to play one, it probably would be James Johnson. I just think it's the game that he gets extended a little bit more against a small ball Houston team. So I think he would be my favorite play. I mean, Jerome Robinson plus Payton for GPP. Yeah, so Jerome Robinson, where is he at? He's 4.1. Not overly excited about that, but if he's going to play about 30 or so minutes, I think he's an okay value. Thoughts on Kobe White, Mills, Harrison, Nance, Drummond, Westbrook, Covington, McGee? Yeah, that's pretty similar to mine. I like that a good amount. White, Dellavedova, Shaq Harrison, Gordon, Drummond, Peyton, Randall, McGee. Good with me. 170 watching, 20 likes. Drop a like for this, man. Yeah, I forgot to bring that up, but hitting the like button does really help me out, guys, to produce all this free content for you. 5,300 left. Need a forward. It's really ugly. Bertans, Thad Young, or Lyles. I would go Bertans there. Matt with the $5 super chat. Thanks for all the help. Really appreciate that, man. Again, super chat guys are not necessary, but they're very, very much appreciated. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Let's see. Any more news here? Yeah, we're not getting the Mitchell Robinson news, which sucks. I'm playing Bobby Portis. I'm willing to take the risk. Jeff Green. Yeah, so the worry there is Eric Gordon's coming back, so the Mets could go down for him. He Drummond. Yeah, that's fine with me. Damian Lee's not a guy I'm super excited about because, he is going to have to do more offensively. I think I'll just prefer the value there for Golden State. Troy Brown or DFS. Probably DFS. I don't know. I'm not super high. DFS coming back from injury. I don't know. That's really close. Thoughts on Harden, Kobe White, House Jr., James Johnson, Drummond, Beasley, Portis, and McGee. That's fine. Good luck, everyone, unless you're in my tourneys. Dellavedova, White, Harrison, Randall, Drummond, Alfred Payton, Aaron Gordon, McGee. I like that. You're the man, DK. Thanks, man. Thank you. All right. Thoughts on Oladipo? Not for me on the slate. Prices, he's not cheap enough for me to consider him. Stupid Mitchell Robinson news, man. Yeah, people are looking for Mitchell Robinson news. Thoughts on Randall or Gordon? Close one. Give me Randall there. I do like both though. Thoughts on Westbrook, Dellavedova, D'Angelo Russell, LeVert, Hayward, Osman, Gordon, Johnson, and Drummond. Thanks. Yeah, I have no issue there. You're getting a little bit constrained with LeVert, with D'Angelo Russell. I think Hayward's going to be pretty low owned. The Robinson news is it is. It really is. I wish we heard about Mitch, but I risked it with Bobby. I did as well. Luka or Harden or Russ. I would probably prefer Harden or Russ there. Think we can do fine either way. Yeah, I like I said, I don't think Bobby Portis is going to kill us if Mitchell Robinson plays. I think we get about 20 minutes from him. But if Mitchell Robinson misses, I think we get close to 30 minutes from Bobby Portis. It's go time, boys. I'm rolling with Russell, Harden. Please hit some shots. I'm a Rockets fan. Troy Brown, James Johnson, Drummond, Delly, Bertans, and McGee. Yeah, so that's very, very similar to mine. My build in that game, I have Harden, D'Lo, and Covington with some value elsewhere. Harden, D'Angelo Russell, and Drummond are my spend ups. Again, I know D'Angelo Russell is more contrarian, but that's a shot I'm willing to take. Hayward, hometown boy, Indiana. Yeah, he would probably be my favorite Boston guy, but that game's pretty unappealing. Lock time. We are at lock. All right, let's see if we can get some ownership here for these first couple of games. D'Lo, Kobe, DFS, Covington, Bryant, Dinwiddie, Love, and Chris. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine with me. Bobby Portis is 3% owned. If Mitchell Robinson's out, I love that, but I have no idea if Mitchell Robinson's playing. Troy Brown, 35% owned. I thought Troy Brown was okay, but I'm fine getting away from that. I'm getting to a guy like Bobby Portis for a tenth of the ownership. RJ Barrett, 2%. I'm curious to see what Randall and Alf Payton are. Troy Brown is that again. I didn't hate him, but 35%. Julius Randle, 26%. Jerome Robinson, 6%. Aaron Holiday, 0.7%. Alf Payton, 15%. Thomas Bryant, 9%. So, yeah, I like the ownership there in Bryant, as well as those two Knicks spend-ups with Alf Payton and Julius Randle. I would have won 5K if I took Westbrook instead of Harden the other night. It's always kind of a tricky one going either or for those guards. Again, I think Westbrook is probably the safer option. Now, I told you I'm playing Harden because I think he's going to go a lot lower owned. But that's a risk again. I like getting a little bit risky here and there. I play some chalk, but I like to differentiate myself in a couple spots. Going Harden over Westbrook's a spot I like getting an edge over the field on for ownership. Playing D'Angelo Russell, I think he's going to be low owned, but then everything else is kind of chalky in my lineup. Troy Brown, 90% owned in my double ups, LOL. I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, I don't think Troy Brown's a bad play, but he's the ultimate chalk. I'm okay getting away from that. Washington, they use a lot of guys, right? Jerome Robinson's playing. That's another body in the rotation. They just have, look, they have a lot, like Bertans, Rui, Mo Wagner can get some run. I think Gary Payton is in the rotation, or maybe not, but still, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised about that. Again, I don't think Troy Brown's a bad play. I think he's a pretty solid value play, but 90% in cash and like 40% in tournaments, I'm fine getting away from that. I'm fine pivoting to Portis there. I'm hoping Mitchell Robinson's out. Elf, 17% $5 Sun Country. Beal outscores Houston guys tonight. It's possible. Definitely is. I mean, if the Houston game blows out, that's a good chance it happens. Yeah, for sure. Value shooting guard, Delhi, never mind. Yeah, I think it's Dellavedova or one of those Spurs guards if you want to go there. But also, with Thomas Bryant being so low owned, that's probably going to mean JaVale McGee is going to be pretty popular. Again, I like JaVale McGee. I think we probably get at least 20 minutes from him. 5% Napier and FanDuel. Woo. Yeah, he's very up and down. Robinson warming up, LOL. Is he? God damn it. That is... I don't know. That is just very, very frustrating. Yeah, Mitchell Robinson's warming up. He's probably going to play. Dame time tonight. Don't sleep. Yeah, like that Portland-Phoenix game, if I wasn't getting a lot of exposure to Minnesota-Houston, that would be the game I would look to. And that's probably, if that's included in the late slate, is it? Let's see. Hopefully that's included in the late slate. They don't do a 2-game slate. It is, on the night slate. So, yeah, that night slate, probably the way that I'm going to go is get a lot of exposure in that Phoenix-Portland game, get some value with Golden State, maybe one of those Clippers guards, and probably JaVale McGee. That's probably how I'm going to build that late night lineup. If the Nets-Lakers game is going to be a remotely close, LeVert's going to have a great game. I noticed that they go to him over Dinwiddie in crunch time. Yeah, so I'm okay getting to LeVert there. He's kind of in the same boat as D'Angelo Russell, both contrarian options. But both, do have pretty big upside. I hope Robinson rolls his ankle if he gets in. Any chance Boban plays with Cauley Stein out? Probably not. Sorry, boys. Still a chance he's limited. Hope so. But I think if he's warming up, he's probably going to play, which is tough for me with Bobby Portis, but hopefully it gets me at least 20. And all right, I think that's going to do it for the live stream, guys. So hope you guys have a good night. Hope we win some money. Hopefully the slate goes better than it did yesterday. And like I said, I'll be back for a video breaking down Wednesday slate. Have that up on my channel later tonight. So good luck, everyone, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.